Welcome back, friend. I knew this day would come.
Well, hello out there, my dear friend. I hope that you're having a very, very good night. This is Blind Dad Does. My name is Ira, and I am back again. I streamed for a few hours earlier, and I'm going to stream for a little while again yet tonight because the clowns are scaring me, and they might eat me. I'm a little terrified. I'm a little paranoid. I'm a little bit shaky. A little bit shaky. Please, somebody out there save me. Save me from myself. Anyways, hello. Hey, Ollie B. Welcome to the show. I hope that you're having a good night over there, too. You're doing some artwork, I hear, and that should be rather interesting. Yeah, it's been kind of a day. I've had, I don't know, one of those days where it seems like it's a good day, but at the same time, you're not really having the best of days, you know? Like, it's been a good day, mental health wise and all that kind of stuff. It's been decent. I can't complain about it. There's no, like, reason for me to have a complaint, you know? Nothing particularly happened or anything along those lines. It's just kind of one of those days where you wake up and it's not like anything is wrong, but it's sort of like you're you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you could be having fun, but you're not necessarily. You could be having a good time, but you're not necessarily. You could be depressed, but you're not necessarily. You know, it's like just one of those sort of a days. And I thought, you know, why don't I share my misery with everybody else? But no, I figured, you know, I would hop on for a little while, chat around a little bit, just kind of gab for a little while and hope that everybody out there wants to come along for the ride with this crazy person riding through the apocalypse that we're currently going through. You know, because we might just be doing that. I don't know. You've got no blep for me, huh, Ollie? Okay, well, I'm sorry. Oh, you've got no help for me. I see. No help, not blep. I thought you said blep. Darn my eyes. I was going to say, what kitty blep is going to be happening? But anyways, so, I want to lament just a little bit, okay? Because this is my space. I can lament a little bit if I wish to, right? Yeah, blep indeed. So I've been doing a lot of new things over on Twitch, trying to get things to work out and all that kind of good stuff. And, you know, I'm getting there. Like, I'm getting people coming in and viewing and that kind of thing. And it's been fun. At the same time, I've been doing everything that I'm doing on Twitch over on YouTube too. And, over the past 5 days, I have seen my channel lose 50 subscribers. 50 subscribers. That hurts my heart, you know, and it's not like I'm super concerned or worried or whatever the case may be. I mean, I've got like well over the amount of subscribers that I would need to remain partner over there and so on and so forth. But, I'm bleeding out subs at this point in time. And it's like I'm trying to figure out, is it me? Did I do something wrong? Am I incorrect with everything? I mean, it's like, I don't know. It's just kind of one of those weird things that I don't know exactly why it might be occurring like that, but it is. I don't know. Trying to turn on the music and it's for some reason not really working correctly. There we go. That'll work. And apparently my phone is deciding that it wants to talk too. Anyways, yeah, so I don't know what to do with the situation, you know, because while I'm trying to do, this is kind of appropriate music for the clown thing, right? While I'm trying to like do everything that I can to be as entertaining as I can be and to have fun with people and all that kind of stuff. I also like to try to make people think and that kind of stuff. But to see my channel like literally bleeding out subscribers, you know, it's like, it's been happening for a few months, of course. Like I'll see like every day, you know, 1 or 2 or maybe 3 will abandon my channel and all that kind of stuff. But my goodness, there has been a lot over the past couple of days, and I don't know why. Like, I don't know what I'm doing differently that is suddenly causing so many people to just say, nope, screw this guy, I'm done. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, because I've not done anything different than what I usually do. And it could be, I guess, maybe me seeing that kind of thing is kind of put me into the melancholish kind of a mood that I've been feeling this evening. But, you know, I don't know. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to change. I don't know what I need to do to, like, try to raise, you know, or at least, like, gain enough new to avert the negative climb. You know what I mean? I don't know. At the same time, there's a couple of things that I'm wanting to do with Twitch that I've been trying to work out, and I'm not sure how to accomplish the feat, because I am a blind guy, you know, and so I'm limited in... Phone, would you shut up? You're always interrupting every time I do a show. I'm limited in, like, the things that I can do. The things that I want to try to do, you know. So let me just lay it out for you here. Okay, so one of the things that I would love to do with the channel is to kind of have these role-playing moments, because one of the, dare I say, personas, I guess persona is kind of the best way to put it, my alts in my mind, is based around something that I've been going through my whole life, right? But has ultimately morphed into becoming like this, well, I'll just say it, like this bard who is owning a bar at the outskirts of this major city called Center, that is the major metropolis of a world that I've created within my mind to write stories from. And so Serene Heart is the bard and owner of this inn, this tavern, this place called the Stumble Inn. And so one of the things that I've wanted to try to do is, I mean, for lack of better words, do something like a VTuber kind of a thing, right? Where I can come on and kind of do this role-playing sort of a thing and not be me, but be like this persona, to kind of role-play with the viewers and listeners and so on and so forth. So I've been looking into how to do that, looking into like how to accomplish what I've got in my head as far as things that I would love to do. And I don't think I'm going to be able to do it, because like the software to be able to make use of that kind of thing, to do the avatar creations and stuff. I don't, like, I've tried, but I've got a great difficulty trying to make it work for me through the process of my vision and stuff, you know? So it's like, I've got these great ideas, these things that I want to do, this steps that I want to take, maybe even creating a whole different Twitch channel that's based around this persona, you know, that's strictly for this VTubing thing so that it doesn't interfere with what I'm doing here, you know what I mean? And to do it like exclusively on Twitch as opposed to doing it through YouTube and Twitch, which is what I'm currently doing with this set of channels. And just make a go of it, see what ends up coming out of it, you know, just try to have like fun in a much different way than anything that I've tried to do before. And I've been really inspired with it, but I can't make it happen. And it's kind of kind of a little depressing, a little sad. It makes me sad that, like, because of these limitations that I've got, that I can't do something that I've really dreamed about trying to do. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I don't know. Like I thought maybe like I could do something with it through, like what I've got here, going on right here, right now. Right. Where I could put a green screen behind me and maybe, act out what is going on in the tavern and all that kind of stuff, create the stories around it. So I did get a green screen thinking maybe I could do something like that. And the green screen that I got, unfortunately, the color of it is a little bit on the darker side. And so in order to make it so that it would be effective, I would have to do some serious lighting on it. And the problem with that is that, number one, while I'm doing these streams, my wife is asleep in the same room with me, right? And I know the light wouldn't bother her. Me talking and everything doesn't wake her, or, I mean, the nuclear explosion could go off like 5 feet away from the house and it wouldn't wake her up, She's that kind of a person. But at the same time, my eyes are very light sensitive. So the more light there is, the worse my eyes are, and the harder it is for me to think straight and so on and so forth, because it starts really piercing in, So I'm just not sure what to do with the situation, I'm like kind of in that weird place of damned if you do and damned if you don't, I guess is really what it comes down to. So anyways, how's everybody else out there doing tonight? I talk to me, folks. I'm just sitting here alone, like talking into the void, really. I'm not trying to lament too much, but I'm just trying to figure out like what to do and where to go from here to try to accomplish whatever kind of things I can with the limited resources, number one, but the limited abilities that I have too. Because there's things that I have to deal with, But anyways, I guess enough about that. So one of the things that I've been doing of late is watching shows that really got underrated vibes, to them. Let me give an example. One of the ones that I'm currently watching again, like for, I don't know, this is probably the fourth watch through of it that I've done, is Farscape with Ben Browder and Claudia Black and Gigi Egley and, just a lot of different really cool people. And it was, for those that aren't aware, it was kind of like an Australian American science fiction show that was actually created by the Henson studio, Jim Henson's studio. So it's got like all the cool like sci-fi effects and CGI and all that kind of stuff, right? But it's also got a lot of like the puppetry that Jim Henson's studio became known for. And it's really good. Like the show itself is most excellent. The storylines of it are different. It's a very different kind of a show. But it really got undercut, I guess, by the broadcaster that had it going on. They kept changing time slots on them. They kept changing how they wanted it to be and so on and so forth, and it's like they ended up only getting 4 seasons, which I mean is okay, because in the Hollywood world, if you get to like the 3rd season, essentially what it comes down to is like if you get to about, I think it's 80 episodes of the show, maybe it's 70, somewhere around in there. Anyways, if you get to that amount, then your show can qualify for syndication, which means that another broadcaster or like local broadcasters and that kind of thing can actually pay for the rights to air the show. So the fact that it got to that point allows it to be in syndication in different places. And I know that it's still getting like broadcast in certain places, but it wasn't really that popular of a show to begin with, even though the show was really good. Like a lot of the stories, you can tell are inspired by, like Star Trek and that kind of thing, you know, which I'm a Star Trek freak, you know, those of you guys that have tuned in to me for any length of time will probably know that I'm very into Star Trek. I love it. Love the story of it and what they've done with it over the years. But, this show, Farscape, the acting in it is excellent. Like it really is. It's very good. Especially Ben Browder and Claudia Black. The two of them have a very good chemistry with each other. And it was actually good enough chemistry that the two of them, once Farscape ended up getting canceled, they moved to doing Stargate SG-1. And did the final 2 seasons worth of Stargate SG-1 plus a couple of movies. Not playing the same characters, of course, as they did in Farscape, but the two of them together. Like, enough people really enjoyed the chemistry between the two of them that they were able to move on together to a whole different show. Science fiction show still, right? But a whole different show. And they played like similar personas, like of course different characters altogether, but the mannerisms and the humors, you know, and just the personality basically was very similar in a lot of ways. So my point is basically, if you've never seen Farscape, I definitely would I would definitely recommend it, because the show is one of those science fiction shows that makes you think. Like, one of my annoyances when it comes to like science fiction movies is that they have a tendency to be focused on the monstrous creature is coming to kill you and you have to destroy it. And it's all about like, okay, so modern science fiction tends towards the horror side of things as opposed to the make you think or mind expanding or things like that kind of situations. And to me, that's really disappointing, because science fiction is, for me, something that's there to really, I think, help humans, you know, help humanity to progress forward. I think that's part of the point of it. Yes, there are sometimes terrible elements, and in a good story, you've always got to have the terrible elements, right? Otherwise, it has no real driver for the plot. But does it have to be always focused on, oh, the creature came down and now we must destroy it, or now it's killing everybody and now it's turned into like this body horror kind of a thing? And it's been that way since like Alien, you know, the original Alien and The Thing. Both good movies, don't get me wrong, both good movies. I definitely loved them. But do we have to see every science fiction movie have that as its base, you know, as its core, as its inspiration, when there are so many different things that could be done with science fiction that would be a lot better, you know? So for me, Farscape, watching it, it's, you know, Star Trek is another one that doesn't have that kind of thing. And that's probably one of the main reasons why I really love it the way that I do. But Farscape is one of those shows that did not really take that route. I mean, yes, there are some stories that have that element to it, you can't have like a TV series maybe without having at least some direction with that, but the overall stories are being told as a perspective of humanity, not for like the horror, there's no horror to it, I guess. And again, not that horror doesn't have its place. It absolutely does. There's good reason why horror is popular, right? And I've written some horror myself. It's not that I'm bashing horror or anything like that, but does it have to be that every science fiction movie and every science fiction show has that as its core? And I don't think that it does. I think that there's a lot different things that could be done to make it better, So anyways, I hope everybody out there is having a good night. For those of you guys that are just tuning in, welcome. This is Blind Dad Does. My name is Ira, and we're just kind of talking about whatever happens to come to mind tonight. Either way, though, I hope that you're having a very good evening, and that all your dreams are coming true. It really is important to me to know that people are having a good time and making the best that they can. I'm a big advocate for you being the best you that you can be in this moment in time. And that doesn't mean to be the best you all the time. It just means the best you that you can be in this moment. Sometimes that just means, getting up out of bed and having a bite to eat. Sometimes it means a lot more. So the only thing anybody could ever expect of you is that you're being the best that you can be in that moment, So anyways, I'm going to take a quick break here. I just need to step away for a brief moment. Give me a second here, guys, and I will be right back. Sorry about this. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. So anyways, Farscape is definitely a TV show that I would recommend. Another one that I would recommend that was pretty underrated, I think, was Fringe. Now, there are some shows that are hard to rewatch, and not because of them being difficult or anything like that, or not entertaining, but there are some shows that are out there that you could watch, and the point of them is to like get wrapped up in the mystery, wrapped up in the ooh la la of the story, instead of just taking the story at face value, I guess is the best way I can put it. So there's a lot of meta that surrounds the storyline of different shows. So like, for instance, a great show with this kind of example would be Lost. Lost was a really good show. It was very entertaining. The storylines of it were really cool, but trying to rewatch the show is a little troublesome, not because, again, the show wasn't entertaining, but because the big part or the big point of the show was to enjoy the mystery of the show, to try to figure out what's coming next, what's going to be happening next, what is the answer to this question, what is the answer to this problem that's before us. And so if you then try to rewatch that show later in time, you encounter the issue of, okay, well, I know what the mystery is. You may not remember like the minutia of each and every episode or something like that, but you remember like the overall story. You know where it ends. You know what the ultimate answers really are. So is the show rewatchable? And are you capable of enjoying it as much as you did the first time around if the whole point of the show is to be wrapped up in the mystery? That's one of the issues I think that Lost has, is that if you've seen the show, you know what happens. So it's not as mysterious, you know? And so the show Fringe has sort of the same issue. There was maybe a little bit less of the overarching mystery kind of a thing to it, but it still was in place, at least a fair amount. You know, if you missed episodes of it while it was originally airing and you caught the show later on, you'd probably be quite confused. You know what I mean? But I think that some shows just have that problem in themselves, you know, and that might be why it's hard to rewatch them. But that show Fringe is definitely one that if you've never seen, it was really underrated, and I think that it deserves a watch. It's one of those shows that really, really deserves a watch. Warehouse 13 is another one that really deserves a watch. And that one you could probably rewatch over and over a couple of times, you know, because there was a lot to it. There was a lot of really good stories to it. And you didn't have to, like, again, be wrapped in a mystery to enjoy it. But that one was a little bit different. You know, that Warehouse 13, one of the fun things with that is, for me, is that it reminded me of another old TV show that was around called Friday the 13th. And it was like, it wasn't, yes, it was named after the movies, but it had nothing to do with the movies, like, at all. You know what I mean? But it was, the point of it was that these people, like, took it upon themselves to find artifacts or items that had been, for whatever reason, ensorcelled, so that it would have an effect on people, like, of, in a magical kind of a way, or something like that. And it was really good, but that one too was a little bit underrated as well. But then Warehouse 13 was kind of like inspired by that show, that old show, Friday the 13th. And both shows were really entertaining. But Warehouse 13, one of the cool things with it is that they also had like crossovers with Eureka. So the Warehouse 13 was sort of in the Eureka universe, you know, which is supposed to be in ours too, right? But you know, it was crossed over between the two, and that was really cool because I was into Eureka as well, which is another show that got a little bit underrated. There's a lot of shows, really, honestly, that were on like sci-fi that I think didn't really get the fair shake that they deserved. Another one is honestly Supernatural, at least when it first came around. So Supernatural, for the first like couple of seasons, actually wasn't very popular. Yes, it had a following, but it wasn't like as popular as the juggernaut that it ended up becoming. You know, it had a little bit of a difficult time at the beginning, you know? Yes, I said Supernatural. It honestly, it was one of the most underrated shows, you know, and it was on the chopping block for a little bit of time. But they kept it going, and then it came into its own stride. You know, the first couple of seasons, if you watch them, they're very episodic. You know what I mean? Like the story itself is wrapped up in a singular episode, and it has some carryover into the rest, right? But if you missed an episode, it didn't really too much matter. However, as it got into more of its own, it definitely got more traction with its own story and started to really flourish. And that's when people really started to become fans for it, you know? With Castiel, yeah. Honestly, when Castiel came into the series, it was like a big boost, you know? A lot of people really felt for Castiel, you know? See, I haven't seen, I've seen up to season 9, and I don't think that I've watched past season 9 yet. But I definitely will. Male wife hours? Okay, I'm not sure what that means, but okay. Anyways, but I haven't seen like past season 9, so don't spoil it for me. But it's one that I definitely like loved what I saw, but I only saw up to season 9 because that's all that was out when I was watching it. Like I was binging it, you know what I mean? And up to season 9 was as far as they had gotten into the show. And I just haven't picked it back up since. I've been a little distracted. Do you think so? See, that's interesting because I didn't catch that at the beginning stages of things, I guess, is the best way I can put it. Like I didn't feel that, you know what I mean? I do like in the first season how they actually said that Bloody Mary was from Fort Wayne, Indiana, which is where I'm from, so I got a kick out of that. At the beginning stages, it was better about it. Okay, so I mean, even by season 9, I don't think they'd really touched on that kind of thing, though, had they? Just out of curiosity, because I didn't get that feel for it. There wasn't really like a bashing or anything along those lines, you know. Not that I caught, anyway. Not that I caught. Okay, gotcha. So it's kind of like more of the symbolic kind of things that are there as subtle hints, not necessarily in your face talking or something like that. Okay. Well, I mean, maybe I didn't catch that kind of a thing because of the fact that I can't see very well. So if there's like visual clues or cues to that kind of a thing, I probably would miss them. But okay, see, I do remember that episode. Yeah. So, I mean, I can see your point. Yeah, I can see your point. Again, though, I haven't seen it, so don't spoil. Okay, don't spoil. I don't know, because I do want to watch the rest of it. I really do. But yeah, the last I saw was when Amanda Tapping was first getting into it, and she had, like, I had watched the episode where things were changing in heaven, and Amanda Tapping was like there in that last episode, you know what I mean? And I remember it distinctly because I love Amanda Tapping. Again, all the Stargate stuff, I love Amanda Tapping. Stargate, oh my god, another underrated series right there is not Stargate, because Stargate definitely got its fair share of watchers. It was the most popular science fiction show for a reason, you know. But Sanctuary, the one that Amanda Tapping created. Oh god, That was such a great show, and it was so underrated. That woman, Amanda Tapping, has got to be one of the best actresses ever. She is amazing. She's really, really good. And one of the things that I loved about what she was doing with Sanctuary was she was taking some of the profits that she had made off of that show and was making off of that show. And even to this day, like the syndication stuff that she makes, the royalties that she gets through the syndication, she set up the Sanctuary for Kids project. So it's a charitable organization that she set up to help kids that are stuck in foster situations or stuck out on the streets and that kind of thing to find homes. I mean, she is like fully 100% dedicated to this, and is the founder of it. But she's really great. You know what I mean? So the British men of letters. God, Steel. So Sanctuary was a really good show, and that show got screwed over so hard by Sci-Fi. It's ridiculous. It really is. You're going on about things. These are words. These are words, but I don't understand what they mean. You get really excited. Yeah, I know you do. I know you do. I know you do. It's kind of, Supernatural is one of those shows though that, I mean, if you're into that kind of a thing, it can be really inspiring. You know what I mean? It really can. And that's good. I mean, the one thing that I can say I'm glad that Supernatural came about for is because it did give a chance, because I know a lot of people in the younger generation really got into Supernatural. You know what I mean? And it's probably because the guys are handsome. I mean, they're very good. They're very beautiful. All that kind of stuff, right? They're great. They're great actors too. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not talking about they're just pretty faces or whatever. You know what I mean? But they're very entertaining. But at the same time, it got people in the younger generation into things sci-fi, things fantasy. And that's to me a really cool thing. It was very inspiring to a lot of people to be able to watch it and then progress from it into other things. I mean, one of the things that I saw happening, I'm an author, right? So one of the things that I saw happening was that at the same time that Supernatural started to really get its gears going and got to be more popular with people, I saw that one of the big trends that started to kick in for books as well was the urban fantasy genre really started kicking in. And the urban fantasy genre is very, very well devoted to the supernatural kind of elements that could be taking place in our world if it was real. You know what I mean? So I do attribute a lot of the urban fantasy popularity to the fact that Supernatural was on the air and getting as much popularity as it did. So a lot of the stories are coming out of that genre really, really good. You know what I mean? And it's if you look at the people who are writing those stories and writing those books and publishing those books, a lot of them are people that are of, a younger generation than me. And you can, they've talked themselves about how Supernatural is an inspiration and so on and so forth. So, to me, that's really cool to see. I like to know that something has been inspiring for people, to get into sci-fi, get into fantasy and all that kind of stuff. Because it's like, I've seen science fiction be the wicked, redheaded stepchild of the entertainment industry for so long that it's like, it's very depressing to see, So, I know supernatural can be considered more fantasy than sci-fi, but there are some sci-fi elements to it. And there is a lot of crossover between science fiction and fantasy in literature and in movies and stuff like that, So the more people can get into that kind of a thing, the better, I think. And that goes into what I was talking about earlier with how so many science fiction movies are just dedicated to the body horror stuff. And it's my hope that maybe that kind of thing can start changing as like the younger generation of people step into the roles of being producers and writers and all of that kind of stuff on the sets of Hollywood, because these old white men aren't going to be there forever, the ones who really hate sci-fi. I mean, I'll give you another perfect example. Again, Star Trek is something that I love, but the company that holds ownership over Star Trek, the leader of that company hates Star Trek, So it's like, it always gets mistreated by the people who own it because they don't like science fiction. So it's never given a fair chance. You know what I mean? So you got accepted into Gish. Got a scholarship for it. Okay. Well, that's awesome. Why don't you tell the people what Gish is about? If you're such a fan of all things supernatural and Misha, you can tell the people what Gish is all about. I mean, I know I'll get it wrong if I try to describe what it is, but basically Misha Collins, the one that is the actor for Castiel on Supernatural, he started like this foundation called Gish that really greatest international scavenger hunt. It's a foundation though that really does a lot of helpful things for people, and it's pretty cool. But Ollie knows far more about the whole Gish situation than I do, so I don't want to bastardize what it's all about without them saying anything about it. But yeah, there's like a big scavenger hunt that takes place and everything every year and all that. So that hi PLPL. Okay. I don't know. Anyways. Okay. Gotcha. I like PLPL. Okay. ... Moving on. Anyways, so like, so many pieces of science fiction that have gotten like kicked to the curb over the years. It's like, it really depresses me. It really sickens my heart because like there are shows that really were coming into getting their own like feet, you know what I mean? And then the company that owns them, or the broadcast channel or whatever the case may be, just, says, nah, we're done. So it's like for instance, like Firefly is a show that I know a lot of people outcry that they got a raw deal, and they absolutely did, right? I mean, they got one season worth of a show and then a movie. And the only reason why they got the movie was because so many people were pissed and they would not let it go, But from what I've heard of it, I think that Firefly would be something I would be really getting into, right? Like it's one that I would perhaps even fall in love with. But I don't want to give myself a chance to enjoy it because it only got one season. It ended on a cliffhanger. It's done. You know what I mean? And they got a movie that's supposed to finalize things, but it could have been so much more. And it's like, I'm of the age where I have over and over and over again had to deal with different broadcast studios, different production companies, so on and so forth, screwing over good science fiction and fantasy for so long that I refuse to watch a show while it's on the air unless it's like gotten a conclusion of some kind. Like I can't do it. I can't let my heart get so in love with the characters, with the stories, with the settings, with all of the stuff. I can't let myself get into it knowing that it might not actually get a conclusion, knowing that I might be left hanging and having no closure with it at all. And I can't do that anymore. So yes, I rewatch different shows, but that's because I know that they got an ending, you know what I mean? Or I'll see that there's a show that's on the air and want to watch it, and I just have to like bide my time for another couple of years or whatever the case may be until it either, is on for a long time and therefore there's a lot of things to absorb, or it comes to a conclusion of some kind. And if it ended on a cliffhanger, I'm not going to watch it. I can't do that to myself. Yes, I know. Sweet Tooth is another one that I want to watch. I do. I want to watch it. But Netflix has screwed me over a couple of times now too, by the way. I mean, Santa Clarita Diet was freaking amazing. Great show. Drew Barrymore, Timothy Olyphant, like absolutely amazing, awesome show. Canceled on a freaking cliffhanger. One of the hardest cliffhangers too, man. Like, they did it to me again. And it's like, so even Netflix is ones that are apt to do this. And they've done it to a bunch of different shows. Now I know Sweet Tooth has gotten really like a lot of people have watched it and said, this is a great show. It's amazing, on and on and on, right? So I know that a lot of people are watching it, and so it probably will continue on. I mean, Netflix won't end it, I mean, Stranger Things, even though it's taking a while for that one to get its next season, that's not one that they're going to cancel. They're not going to let that one go. It's gotten too popular and it's made them too much money, right? But other shows have gotten the axe when they didn't deserve to. A lot of people watched Santa Clarita Diet, for instance, and really loved it. And there was a major outcry afterwards too when they canceled it. It's getting nothing, there's no conclusion to it at all. So okay, so Gish is a creative scavenger hunt where instead of finding things, you create things. So if a prompt is like find a rainbow, you can either literally find a rainbow or fill a kiddie pool with Skittles. Gotcha. So Hannibal, the literal cliffhanger. Yeah, I mean, it's like there are so many shows that end up having that happen to themselves, and it's like I don't know. I don't have the heart to do it, and especially when it comes to good science fiction or fantasy shows, because there's so few of them around. I don't know why those two genres especially get such a bad rap. I mean, yes, they're not the Kardashians or something like that. They're not hyper popular, which, I mean, that in and of itself is Honey Boo Boo, all that stuff. It's like those, like, how the hell did Honey Boo Boo get more seasons than Firefly? Like, how does this happen? And I know it's because, people are riding the hype train and blah, 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 but it's like, I don't know. I guess people will watch a train wreck more than they'll like to sit and think, I guess that's really what it comes down to. The differences between Honey Boo Boo and Firefly, right? But I'll never understand why things are that way, you know? I won't. There was a show called John Doe that was really good. It got a lot of really great reviews. People were really falling in love with it. It was amazing. 1 season. Ended on a cliffhanger. Kyle XY ended on a cliffhanger. Heroes ended on a cliffhanger. You know, it's like all of these different shows that were just great. Just really great shows. Never actually given a conclusion, you know? So it's like, I know I'm not alone in being a fan of sci-fi and or fantasy to have gone through these different heartbreaks with television shows. I know I can't be alone with it. You know what I mean? So what are your favorite shows? Like I would love to know, like what would you consider to be your favorite shows that are underrated? Like that, you know, more people really should watch, but for whatever reason, it's never grasped hold of the public gestalt. I can't say Star Trek because Star Trek has definitely been a very popular show. You know, maybe the original series not as much as the rest, but Star Trek isn't underrated, you know. And my anger levels with Star Trek Enterprise have diminished over time, although not by much, just simply based on what they did to it at the end. And I won't spoil it at this moment in time for anybody who hasn't seen Star Trek Enterprise. If you haven't, definitely watch the show. I mean, it's well worthwhile, but that's another show that kind of needed to come into its own. Its first season was a little troublesome, you know. Another one that was very close to getting the axe but ended up not, thankfully, was Buffy the Vampire Slayer. You know, that was a really great show, but the first season of it was pretty cringy, you know, in a lot of different ways. Yeah, Buffy's a good show. I will say, like, okay, so Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the TV show, was based on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie, right? But you don't have to watch, like, they're not, you don't have to see the one to understand the other, I guess you could say, because they did get a lot of the explaining of the movie itself done pretty quickly in the show. So if you've never seen the movie, it's not too big of a deal to have never seen it. The movie is good, by the way. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's a good movie and it's well worth watching. But the show is one of those that, like, the first few episodes are okay, you know, they're okay, but once you get into like the 5th, 6th, 7th episode of the first season, that's where it really starts to like pick itself up, and the people that are acting get a little bit more comfortable with the roles, you know, and you can tell they start like really rolling with it, you know. So it's one of those shows that I highly recommend if you're going to watch and you've never seen it before. Give it a good few episodes before giving up on it, because it might be worth your time, you know, to invest a little bit extra to make it happen. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, as much as I like the show, like, Ollie, I think one of your favorite characters is going to be Willow. Like, I think that you are absolutely going to fall in love with Willow. But unfortunately, like, my wife Jolene, when I tried to have her watch it, like, we got through, I think 4 episodes, and she's finally just said, you know, I can't do this one anymore. I just can't do it anymore. So we ended up stopping, but I was a little disappointed because I thought that she would like it a lot better than what she ended up. another show that I think is a little underrated, but not, how can I put this? So it's been on for a lot of seasons. Okay. And I think actually it's still going, maybe. I don't know for sure. But the show, like it's been on for a while, but it's not as popular as I think that it really could be. You know, like if more people caught it, they would, I think, be more apt to really enjoy it. You know what I mean? But it's like one of those shows that's a little weird. And that would be Bones. I'm not into like police dramas and medical dramas and that kind of thing. There have been a couple that I've enjoyed over the years, such as hey TDF, welcome back. The Expanse is definitely one that I want to give a shot. It's on my list. I just haven't had time to actually get to it yet. But it's definitely there. I want to watch that one for sure. The 100 is another one that I enjoyed a lot. So we're just kind of talking about like different shows that maybe have gotten an underrated response, and maybe not necessarily from the people who are watching it, but from the people who are producing it or the stations that they're on. I have been through so many years of falling in love with a show, and then the show gets canceled and doesn't get a conclusion or is left on a cliffhanger and all that kind of stuff, that it's very hard for me to watch a show that's still on the air, you know, that hasn't had a conclusion in some kind of a way. Because I don't want to fall in love with the people. I don't want to fall in love with the situations and the story and all that kind of stuff to just have it be left with no closure of any kind. You know, to me, that's really, it's heartbreaking. You know, it's heart-wrenching for me. I really get into the stories. The Expanse is still on the air too, isn't it, TDF? I think that one is still there. And if I remember correctly, actually we were talking about Amanda Tapping earlier, and if I remember correctly, isn't Amanda Tapping involved with The Expanse too? I'm trying to make sure, because I know that it's one that I've looked into, but I've got it like on my to watch list, you know, but I haven't started it in any way, so I'm not fully aware of what all's involved with it. Needed a drink there. Sorry about that. It is for me too. Since the advent of reality TV, things have gotten a lot worse for people who are trying to consume content that is actually like really deep. You know, honestly, that's the best term I can come up with. That's deeper than just surface level. But reality TV is very easy to produce. You know, it's very easy to produce and consume. So your average TV watcher, well, number one, you know, it's like, I don't want to be insulting here, but your average TV viewer is not necessarily going to be attracted to the deeper subjects, you know? And that's okay. But when the industry has focused so hard on only doing reality content because that is where the best money can be made, you know, I understand it's a business. I understand they got to make money and all that kind of stuff, you know, but they can do things in a bit of a different way too, you know? Right. The BBC actually, like, the way that they do things is a lot different, you know, because everybody that has TV in the UK, I mean, you got to pay for the TV, right? You got to pay for the service. So like that money is used in a different way. Like it's not necessarily as commercially focused. One of my all-time favorite shows is Doctor Who. I watched every episode of it from the first episode forward, except getting into the newer stuff. I haven't done those yet, but they're on my to-do list. But up to, the episodes that were in the 80s, I watched every single one of them, and I loved them. Like even the old black and white William Hartnell stuff, that's kind of like cringy to watch sometimes at this point in time. I thought was really good because it was about the stories, the stories were really good. Another one of my favorite shows that was done by the BBC was Spaced. With Simon Pegg, like where he really got his big to do, I really liked that show and I liked what they did with it, and I wish that they would have given it a little bit more, but I do understand that, it was kind of their decision not to. There being Simon Pegg and the other people who were involved with the show. But it was a really good one, but the BBC, like, I do like what they have accomplished over the years. They've come out with some very interesting stuff, some very thoughtful stuff. And it's stuff that like you don't necessarily see anywhere in American television, which is a little disappointing, Because again, I'm an American TV watcher, right? When I watch TV, like I don't actually watch TV, and I haven't for a long time. I do things like trying to watch it in other kind of ways, but I don't actually sit down in front of the TV to watch anything. So just for edification's sake, but but there really are there are so many shows that could have been so much more had they been given a half of a chance. But it's like I was talking about earlier, science fiction is in and of itself problematic because you have situations like has happened with Star Trek over the years. When Star Trek Enterprise was on the air, they did everything that they could do to, even though it was kind of like the flagship show of their network at that time, they still kept screwing it over because the person who was in charge of the network at the time hated science fiction. Well, if you own the property for one of the biggest science fiction IPs out there and you don't like science fiction, you need to either change your job or let somebody else have control over that specific portion of things. Like it makes no sense. We've seen the same kind of thing happen in some kind of ways with Star Wars too, by the way. Which I am also a big fan of, but I'm not a big fan of some of the directions of things that they've gone with it either, For instance, making the whole canon stories that have been in existence for years, suddenly they don't count anymore. It's like that's problematic, because there's a lot of territory that has been covered in the Star Wars universe through the different books and other media over the years. And when you've grown up with that, when you've grown up knowing, okay, well, this is what the story is about, X, 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 things happened, to just suddenly have it go, nah, none of that counts at all. It's a little jagged, like it's a little off-putting, to say the least. And to then have them do like a completely different direction with the new movies and stuff, is really, it's hard again for somebody like me who was raised with it and knew and loved the books and the other media that came out over the years. Splinter of the Mind's Eye, you've got the Thrawn story, all of the different things that are there with the way that Star Wars always was, to then have it just poof is a little weird, it's a little hard. Cool. Awesome, Ollie. I'm glad that you're getting it finished up. Yeah, I'll take a look at it after the show here. So yeah, I don't know. I guess for me it's like I don't disparage anybody that wants to watch reality TV or anything like that. You know, it's like if that's what you want to do with your time, then so be it. But it's not for me, and it's kind of sad for me that there are people that are like me, and I know there are that are like me that enjoy things other than reality television. That there's not as much of a focus on creating really, really good content in that way, you know. Going back to Heroes, the original idea for Heroes, and really for a while what they did with it was really good. Like, it was unique, it was cool, it was, you know, different. It was something that you could grasp hold of and say, wow, this is really cool, this is different, you know. And for someone, again, who was like me, that grew up on comics and stuff, you know, it was kind of one of those ultimate expressions of comic book hero kind of stuff. You know what I mean? It was really cool. And then it got screwed over. Right. Risky investment. Absolutely. And I understand that. I do. But I think one of the other issues is that, even if somebody does take the risk to invest, they get so shaky even though it starts to get popular, you know? So you see shows ending after a single season with no conclusion, even though its ratings were really good and it was getting a lot of cash flow coming in. But it's like, especially with science fiction and fantasy, those two genres especially are ones that have to have a little bit of time to really get a foothold going, you know. Especially with science fiction, there has to be like a bit of time given to the backstories of things. There has to be a little bit of time given to the character developments, you know, as opposed to reality television. Like, reality television, by and large, there's no character developments, you know, because it's not part of the system. It's not part of the ecosphere with that kind of a genre. Science fiction and fantasy are hyper dependent on character development if they're going to be a good show. So character development is not something that can be done in a singular episode or even a couple of episodes. It takes place over a little bit of time. You know, there has to be some kind of an arc that's there to allow the character development to take place. So if a show is just starting to get its run going of, we're developing these characters, you know, so that people can fall in love with them or whatever the case may be, right? Or hate them, you know, if they're the villains or whatever. If it's not given the chance to do that, and it's just, it's forced, then again, people aren't going to respond to that either, you know. But it's like the investors, and again, no disparaging, right? But the investors are only focused on what they're going to get out of it monetarily. And that's understandable. I mean, if you're going to invest into a product, you need to make a profit. But they also need to understand that if they're getting involved in a science fiction project or a fantasy project, that it's going to take time to develop that profit. But it will, because there's no fans like that are rabid like the fans that come from science fiction and fantasy. I mean, honestly, they will buy everything that you put out. You know what I mean? Like, they will buy everything if it's about their favorite science fiction show or fantasy show. It's gonna happen, you know. Right. Novels are very good for character development. You can get a lot of character development even in a singular novel. But, science fiction but TV shows, like a TV show isn't a novel, right? In and of itself. It is more of a short story, if anything else. So they're little bites, like a chapter of a novel. Maybe one episode would be a chapter of the novel, but you're not finishing off that novel within that one singular 1 hour episode or a half-hour episode or whatever the case may be. It takes a lot more time for that to happen on a show. What I've hoped for over the years is that there would be like a conglomerate of people who either invest small amounts or a conglomerate of people who have a fair amount of money, who do love science fiction and fantasy, and that they invest in creating shows, understanding from the base of things, these concepts that I'm talking about, that it takes time to develop the stuff. You know what I mean? So it's just like with any business. When you start a business, you have to plan that for at least a year, you're not going to be making a profit. You have to plan that you have enough savings or enough invested into it that it can hold its own for at least a year before you're going to make any kind of a profit. And if it takes off, then yes, you got lucky, right? But by and large, almost every business out there never makes a profit for the first year or two that they're in business. Yeah. See, HBO has, I think, done a good job of exactly what I'm talking about. They've given some time, but Game of Thrones, for instance, was already a big IP when they decided to run with it. It was already a very popular kind of a thing. The new Star Trek shows are running off of the popularity of what had come before, so it's not like when you're buying an IP that already has a rabid base, there's not as much risk there, is really what it comes down to. So investors are more likely to get their profit back. But like I said, I mean, if we could have like even because okay, let me put it this way, and this is maybe an odd thought, but it's a thought experiment. Run with me for a minute. If you could, as a fan of science fiction, put in like $100 or $500 or $1,000 or whatever, because people play the stock market at random, right? They'll throw $100 here or $200 there or whatever the case may be. If there was a way that we could like make it so that we could do the same but with an investment into a science fiction story or something like that, or a show. And then everybody who, if it made a profit, then everybody who like submitted into it got a cut of whatever percentage of the profit would be, So if you threw in $100 and the thing would cost $1 million, well, you'd get that 0.01% profit margin, off of the 2 billion or whatever it made. Just throwing these numbers out there completely random. They're not legit, right? But you get the point, right? That some kind of a return of investment could happen. It's just as risky as playing the stock market, right? But it would also, I think, maybe give a little bit more opportunity for something good to be created out of the love of science fiction. Because, I mean, think about it this way. The people who invested, they're going to be the biggest fans of that science fiction project, right? They're going to be putting a lot of energy into making it a popular thing. The hype train can definitely run with it, with these investors that could come in with it, I don't know. It's maybe a little weird, but it's sort of like, I don't know, almost a co-op, like there's co-op markets all over the place, maybe instead of a co-op market, it's a co-op sci-fi show or or whatever. Maybe I'm just weird. I don't know. Need a drink and I lost my tea. There it is. I think honestly that same kind of like investment idea could be used really with anything, any kind of topic. Music, for instance. There is a lot of profit that could be made in music. Look at Harris Heller, who created the whole stream beats thing for people who are streaming, right? The music that I'm playing right now isn't his, but it's from another place. But he created the stream beats thing because he saw that there was this niche of people who needed music for their background of their videos and didn't have a way to do it, because there is such a lack of music that's not going to give us a DMCA strike and stuff. So he took this investment that he made and created music, put it onto different platforms, and now he's making a lot of money off of it, right? Well, what if a conglomerate of people decided to do the same thing? I mean, in essence, if done in the right kind of ways, it could literally take over the recording industry and get it away from the stance that it currently is at, which is something that I do think needs to happen. We see that the music industry is so backwoods compared to what it really should be in this day and age, that it's like it's horrible what you have to deal with when you're dealing with like public stuff, I mean, it's like, for instance, technically speaking, every time you sing happy birthday to somebody, you're supposed to pay $0.25 to the guy that wrote the song, and you can't do it online. You can't like sing happy birthday online without getting a DMCA strike against you. And they're very hyper striking with it. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. Oh, did it finally get let go? Okay. Cause it was owned until pretty recent times, but it's still, I mean, the point is valid. Like, it's still there with a lot of different IP, there are some things like some, again, I do things on YouTube, right? So I've dealt with the whole YouTube content ID thing for many years now. I know how it works. Here's one of the most disgusting things that ever happened. I wrote a song myself, literally recorded the song myself, was not based on anybody else's song, nothing, right? And I used it in one of my videos, and I got a DMCA strike against me because the content ID claimed that it was an entirely different song. And I went to listen to the song and it had nothing to do with it. But the person who claimed it denied me trying to retroactively claim against it. You see what I mean? And I had to make the decision of whether to keep pursuing it or risk losing my channel because I pushed. This kind of thing happens to a lot of channels out there. And so in the end, I decided I couldn't do anything about it because I can't hire a lawyer to help me out with it. And unfortunately, the way that the whole content ID thing works is that instead of innocent until proven guilty, it's a situation where the person who made the original claim, again, this record company that tried to claim that my song was theirs, I'm the one that's beholden to give the proof that it's mine, not them. You see, because they were the ones that made the claim. So it's such a bass-ackward way to do things that a lot of people are getting hurt by. It makes no sense, Gotcha. See, yeah. There you go. Like it's a backward claim, backward claim, backward claim. Like even that good morning to you thing could be probably traced even further back, you know? It is. But it's like, if you've invested into growing your channel, not only is it a time, but it's a money investment into growing your channel. You know, there's a lot of work and energy that goes into making your YouTube channel be any kind of a success, right? And it's unfortunate that because it's their playground, they can make you take your ball and go home without giving you any opportunity to fight against it. It's their rules. And again, I understand that. You know, I accept that by hitting that little terms of service button. I accepted that whatever they want to have happen on their playground is what I have to be obedient to. But at the same time, like, there have to be ways. I think that there are ways that it could be done better for the people that have legitimate claims against the Content ID system to work through, but there unfortunately aren't. Like, it's very, very difficult to, if a company claims that something that you did is theirs, it's very difficult to have that claim revoked without really fighting hard. And while you're fighting hard, you risk your channel being taken down, because that's one of the side problems with it, is that if you fight against it and the claim still stands, even though you have a legitimate claim against it, right? They can and do sometimes, not every time, but they can and do take channels down for it. It was a strike. And that's the problem, is that, you know, this was something that I created with my own blood, sweat, and tears. Recorded myself. No samples, no anything along those lines, nothing. It was just me. So I eventually had to let it go. But that copyright strike is still sitting there on my channel. And if I was to get another one, I could lose my channel. You know, I mean, that's the hell of it, is that you've got to deal with all of this stuff. You know, it's like, but I know that if I wanted to try to fight it further, I would have to go as far as hiring an entertainment lawyer or something to get it done. You know, that's just not worth it. I did have to take the video down. Yes. But at the same time, even though I've taken the video down, the strike still remains on the channel. That's how these strike things work. Even if you remove the video, the strike's still there. Now, the copyright claim stuff is a little bit different. Like, you could have, if I wanted to play a song on the channel that was, you know, I don't know, just if I wanted to play a Slayer song or something like that, just, or a Pink Floyd song or something like that, right? There are two things that possibly could happen. You could either have a copyright strike against your channel, or you can have a copyright claim against your channel. If there's a copyright claim, like through the Content ID system, it works a little bit differently than a strike. The claim allows your video to still be there. Some companies that hold the claim will allow the video to still remain and playable everywhere. Some of them will force YouTube to not play it in certain countries. And then sometimes they will tell YouTube to mute the video entirely. Or to mute the song, at least the portion of the video where the song exists has to be muted out, and it's done automatically. You can't do anything about it. Those kind of things don't have a permanent effect on your channel. It just makes it so that that video itself cannot be monetized by you. The video will probably be monetized, but any funding from it will go to whoever claimed the video, you see. Whereas a copyright strike is a company being absolutely vengeful in one way or another and are doing a takedown notice of the video and the channel. So if the takedown notice comes in against the video, you essentially have 2 to 3 chances to still be remaining on YouTube with that channel. But those copyright strikes always exist. They will not be removed from your channel. They don't just go away. So right, I figured you were, but I know there's other people that are watching, so I'm just kind of like, you know, just talking it through in general for edification's sake for those that are watching. So because there are a lot of people that don't understand how YouTube really works. Like, it's a little funky, you know, depending on the things that you're trying to do. It can get a little bit funky. But I've been dealing with them now for years. You know, with the channel that I've got, the channel itself was created, I think, in 2009. So it's been around for a long time. And I've dealt with a lot of different things. I mean, I even had a community strike against me at one point in time because of trolls. You know, trying to do a takedown on my channel because they didn't like things that I was talking about. They didn't like the guests that I had on my shows. So, I even got a community strike against my channel because of the way that YouTube works. You know, if enough people do a report on a video, then YouTube automatically puts a community strike against your channel. So it's crazy. You know, you've got no recourse to be able to fight against it without taking serious legal steps, you know, to make it so that that kind of thing no longer has that impact on the channel. But not everybody can afford to do that. I certainly can't. You know, I certainly can't. Again, for edification's sake, the community strike came about because I was talking about the church, Catholic Church, the accusations against it as far as killing of First Nations children. I had a guest who was on that was doing investigations into that kind of stuff, and he brought his own set of trolls with him. And so that video got hit with a lot of community reports. And so the community reports basically, you know, caused that strike to happen. So okay, Ellie, give me a second. Okay, did you get it? Okay, good. So, you know, it's difficult dealing with those YouTube algorithms and the automated procedures. I did try to fight that community strike, but because there were, I'm trying to remember, it was somewhere around 100 different people that were watching the video that came with him as trolls, ended up doing the report. So that video actually got not only the community strike, but the takedown as well. Like, YouTube just ripped it down. And that was really disappointing because the guest that I had on, you know, he wasn't me, but because of it being on the channel, the strike was against me, you know? And so then also the subject that he was talking about is legit. Like, we're now finding out, like, there was just another set of bodies that was found at the site of one of these churches, you know, and there have been over 1,500 bodies that have been found, and yet only like 7 of the 2,000 plus churches that took in these children have actually had these investigations done, and they've already found hundreds and hundreds of bodies, you know? And it's like, so that's all this guy was on talking about. But because he was talking about this controversial topic, people trolled. And he told me later that almost everybody that he'd been a guest with had this kind of an impact. And I'm like, I wish he would have told me this beforehand, you know, maybe I wouldn't have had him on, but I'm not unhappy with the fact that I had him on. I mean, YouTube was not my only way of doing broadcasts. YouTube was simply the simulcast of it, but I had millions of other listeners elsewhere, you know, so I'm glad that I did it. It's just the point of, you know, YouTube itself can be very problematic at best sometimes. And at worst is, you know, a megalomaniac overlord kind of a thing, or it can be, you know. And unfortunately, especially with small channels that are like mine, you know, I've only got like 5,400 subscribers or whatever on my channel, you know. I've got a lot of views. I mean, I've got well over 1 million views on my channel, but at the same time, like that's nothing compared to a lot of other people that are out there, you know. So anyways, the point is that you know, sometimes when you're dealing with these big conglomerates, it's really hard to tread through it, especially if you don't know exactly what you're doing, you know. And again, I've had the channel for a while. I'm having a problem right now with it that I'm bleeding subscribers out of my YouTube channel, and I'm not sure exactly why that's happening. Like over the past 4 days, I've lost 100 subscribers, you know, and I'm not sure why that's the case. Like the stuff that I'm doing is no different than what I've done over the past few weeks, the past few months, the past year, you know. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with it, but it's a little disheartening to see it happening when I'm trying to grow both the YouTube channel and the Twitch channel to see this kind of a thing happening, you know. Thankfully, I'm not bleeding anybody out of Twitch, but I've only got like 36 followers on Twitch. So, you know, if I start bleeding them out, I'm in real trouble, right? So I just don't know. I don't know what to do with it. I don't know what to do to resolve the issue. I don't know what these people want, you know. What do these people want from me? I don't know. All I can do is just keep doing what I'm doing and hope that people want to come along for the ride. That's all I can hope for. So how's everybody out there doing today? How's your day been? This has been a weird one for me. I woke up in one of those moods that you don't know exactly what to do, you know, like you're not happy, you're not sad, you're not depressed, you're not blah, 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 blah. You know, it's like you could be, but you're not. Well, you could be happy, but you're not. You could be this, but you're not. You know, you're just kind of like that thing. And so that's why I decided to hop on here tonight, is to, you know, just come on and try to have some cool discussions with people and just, you know, change my mind around a little bit, you know, just to have a good evening. One of those things. Miso Complex, welcome. I hope that you're having a really great night. And I'm very grateful that you are here in this moment in time with me. Just kind of having a random discussion about whatever anybody wants to talk about, whatever is on everybody's mind. I'm happy to talk about. I was talking a little bit about like underrated TV shows earlier. I was talking about YouTube. I was talking about all kinds of different things. You know, it's kind of been just one of those random nights. But for those of you guys that are just tuning in, I do see that we have a couple others coming in too. My name is Ira. Howdy. I've been here forever, but this is Blind Dad Does right now. Blind Dad is just doing a conversation, just trying to have a little bit of fun and having a a cool conversation in the middle of the night with folks. I am a blind guy. Yeah, blind dad does is actually a legit name. I am a blind guy. I was born with a genetic defect that causes me to have way too much instead of too little. My eyes are pyramid shaped instead of egg shaped. So if you guys see me doing like weird things, trying to like squint and all that kind of stuff, it's just because I'm trying to be able to read the chat and stuff, and I don't have it as close to me as I need it to be. So Yep. The genetic defect I have, it makes my eyes pyramid shaped instead of egg shaped. I also have a lot of scarring on my corneas. So between everything, every pinpoint of light is actually about 100 times, like it's there about 100-fold, you know, and also it is superimposed over each other into warped and weird ways. So by the time that everything is said and done, the more light that there is, the more washed out my vision becomes. And so like staring at the screen and that kind of thing, trying to stare at the phone, all that kind of good stuff, unless I have it basically like right about here in my face, it's a washout to me, and I have to squint my eyes as hard as I can to be able to read what's there on the screen and that kind of thing. But I try to get by. You know, I don't let it get me down, and I don't let it hold me back. I try to do everything that I can do to still make sure that everybody is having a good time. So yeah, but I am the strangest person that I've ever met. You guys will see me moving around a little bit, because if I stop moving any part of my body at any one point in time or another, I'm going to hemorrhage and I'm going to die. So I do try to you know, do that. I don't want to die. So yeah, anyways, how's your day been? How are you doing out there? I'd love to know a little bit about you. So yeah, where are you from? And how are things? I've been having one of those days where it's kind of like, it's not a bad mental health day or anything along those lines. It's just kind of one of those days where you don't feel like you are happy, sad, depressed, joyous, whatever the case may be. You're just kind of there, you know? And those days kind of suck. Honestly, they do. They kind of suck. I mean, I've had enough bad days, you know, enough mental days and that kind of thing over the years to know that I enjoy feeling more than anything else. But, you know, it's still not necessarily the funnest experience. Portland, Oregon. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. The West Coast. My wife has family that's from over in Oregon. I think they're from Eugene, though, not Portland. But she went over there quite a few times to go visit them. I've been to Oregon a couple of times. I went through Oregon kind of like in a weird way. My friend and I, kind of funny story. So two friends of mine and I decided to, in the middle of January, take a trip from Indiana, which is where we live, to Seattle, Washington. Middle of January, deciding to do this kind of like on a whim. One of my friends basically was getting together with a girl that he met on EverQuest, who lived there, and we had to make this cross-country trip to go pick her up and bring her back so that he could live with her. It was quite the experience. It took a long time to get there. Like we had to go through the mountains in the middle of a blizzard. That was scary. That was not fun. So we ended up like kind of going south and then north to be able to like bypass some of the stuff that was going on, like some of the weather that was going on, because we had to like backtrack our way out of the mountains, you know, like we were going through like the passes and stuff. And I'm like, oh God, we're going to die. We're going to die a horrible death. We're going to die the Donner death. You guys are going to eat me, and I'm skinny. I'm not going to be able to handle this. You know, there's nothing for me to eat. So, you know, by the time everything was said and done, we did end up making it to Seattle. We ended up sleeping for like 8 hours, and then we were right back on the road going back to Indiana. The one rule that we had, you know, it was three guys in a very small car. We were in like gosh, what was it? It was a 1989, I think, Monte Carlo. So it wasn't really all that big of a car, right? And so three guys in a car, the one major rule of the car was nobody took their shoes off ever. Like nobody removed a shoe the whole trip. It was a bad experience. Like, at one point in time, like when we were on our way back, there was an ice storm that ended up coming and we were driving through Montana. I don't know if you guys have ever driven through Montana, but don't. It is the longest straight stretch of, oh my God, this is freaking boring that you'll ever experience in your life. It is horrible, right? Doing it in the middle of ice storm, even worse, because we had to do it slow. So we were like halfway through Montana, and we were like, my friend Joe and I were in one car, and our other friend Dave, who we went to go pick up this girl, and this girl that he had, were in the car in front of us, and they had like her dog, him, and her in this car, and so we're driving down the road, and suddenly their car veers off the road and ends up in the ditch. Yeah, the dog too. Their car ends up off the road into the ditch. And the reason why, like, we found out that the reason why was because they decided that the best thing to do in the middle of an ice storm going down this road in Montana was for her to lean over and start giving him a BJ. And so they ended up in the ditch. Yeah. Not the smartest move ever. So of course, we're trying to get the car out of the ditch, and it wasn't happening. Like, there's no way we're going to get it out. Right. The car that I was in with my friend Joe, it was like a much smaller car. Even, I think it was like a, LeSabre. I think, Chrysler LeSabre is what it was. It was a much smaller car. Like, it didn't even, it was horrible. There's no way I'm towing the car out of the ditch with this car. Right. So we had to call a tow company, and it took them forever to get there. And so that was like 8 hours on the side of the road in the middle of an ice storm in Montana, trying to huddle together to survive. And all of us pissed off at this guy because of how it ended up happening. Like, yeah. So we did finally make it home, but oh God, it was horrible. It really was. And the kicker part is too, that like the guy, Dave, who like was in control of this whole situation, refused to pay gas. And so like the car that we were in, we were running low on gas, and the guy's like, well, I don't want to pay for the gas. And we were like, well, how are we supposed to get home? And he's like, well, just leave your car here and we can like come pick it up again sometime. And it's like, dude, I'm not leaving my car on the side of the road in the middle of Illinois. I mean, what the hell is your problem? Give me $20 for gas so I can get home, dude. Like, it was crazy. Like, it was one of the weirdest experiences ever. Yeah. So anyways, I've had some weird ones over the years. But Oregon, Oregon is a very pretty place to be. It really is. It's really cool. I'm sorry I got off on a tangent about Oregon and went into a weird direction there, but yeah. Right? Exactly. And you would think like he'd have some kind of gratitude about the fact that we were, doing this as a favor for him. The original reason why the three of us kind of went together is so that we could have alternating drivers so that we wouldn't have to stop anywhere to stay the night or something like that, like at a hotel or whatever, just to save a little bit of money or something, So you would think that would kind of be in the mind, but that's not how things ended up working out. Well, hey there, Frosty Casual. Welcome to the channel. I hope that you're having a really good day. We're just kind of talking about anything and everything in general. Just kind of having one of those vibe nights. I've been in kind of like this weird unmood all day. So I've been trying to kind of just come online, have a conversation with people so I can kind of cheer myself up a little bit and have a little bit of fun. But I do deeply appreciate you stepping in here and giving us the hello. My name is Ira. I am Blind Dad Does. Right now, Blind Dad is doing whatever happens to come to everybody's mind. I was just telling a story about me having a cross-country trip with two other guys and the horrific experience that it was overall. But whatever's on your mind. Where are you from? How you doing? How's your day been? All that kind of good stuff. But yeah. It's just been kind of one of those days. And I'm glad that you guys are here with me right now because you're cheering me up immensely. And I'm grateful for it. By the way, one of the things that I like to do with every stream that I do is kind of have a little bit of a dad moment, you know? So that's why I kind of like call myself Blind Dad Does because, well, I'm a blind dad. But I'm also one that I try to do what I can to support everybody that's out there. So, you know, let me give you this little bit of dad moment to run with, right? So no matter who you are, no matter what you're going through, no matter what anybody else tells you, you are worthy of being loved. And don't ever let anybody teach you any different. Okay? All right. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Road trips open you up to many possibilities, good and bad. Yes, absolutely. I've had some great ones over the years, and I've had some really, oh God, I don't know how I managed it. One of the worst ones, aside from the trip to Seattle in the middle of winter through a storm, was, okay, so again, I live in Indiana, and I don't know if any of you guys have ever been to Chicago, Illinois, but Chicago, Illinois is a very big town, and there's a lot to it, and trying to drive through it is really, really difficult, right? Well, my friend and I, Tom, back when I was much younger and in my stoner days, decided that it would be a great idea after work to take off from where we live and do a road trip to Chicago in the middle of the night, stoned out of our gourds. We were in a 1979 Volkswagen Rabbit. This car had been through hell. I mean, this car had been through real hell. It survived 4 floods that covered it entirely. The place that I used to live at flooded all the time. So it would get completely inundated by river water. And as soon as the river water escaped, you know, I would fix it back up again, empty it out, clean it out, and replace all the fluids and all that kind of stuff. And so it had survived 4 floods. It had also survived me jumping it from a 2-story parking garage into a snowbank below, but not very, like, it didn't survive very well. Like, I won't say that it was still in perfect condition or anything like that, right? But it survived. It was still drivable. And I was working for a pizza place doing delivery, so, you know, I was in the car all the time. One of the problems with the car is that after everything that it had been through, if you hit a bump, like, the shocks on the back end of it were not only broken, they were completely snapped in half. So if you hit a bump, it was like, bam! It was like the loudest, most horrific, like, earthquake kind of tremor that would happen through the whole car. And it was like, I probably have a bad back today because of this car, you know? At that point, it's a verified submarine. Yeah, exactly. Anyways, and one of the other problems with it is that the graphite on the inside of the speedometer ended up like breaking down so much in the floodwaters that had cover it, that when I would drive down the road, it would kind of like make this really like absolutely ear-shattering grinding noise. It was like, it was like horrible. Oh my God. And I swear you could hear it from like a block away. It had to be that loud. So anyways, me and Tom decided to take this car to Chicago, which was about 200 miles away from where we lived. In the middle of the night, stoned out of our gourds. And we made it there okay. Like, we made it to Chicago okay, mostly. I was a little bit tripping, but very thirsty by the time that we made it there. And Tom was getting a little bit tired, but we decided to get out of the car and go walk around. And as we're walking around, we realized this is probably not the best neighborhood to walk around in. So we got back in the car and we started to drive back home. Okay. So on the way home, we got about like 10 minutes out of Chicago and suddenly my engine catches on fire. Like we're smoking, everything is all over the place. So I stopped the car, yanked it over to the side of the road, popped the hood open, and we had to pour our last Mountain Dew onto the fire to get it to put out. And what I realized was that, and again, I was a teenager at the time, I was like just turned 18, if I remember right, during this period of time. And what I realized is that my mom had taken the car and gone to like the gas station. And while she took it there, she decided to fill up the oil. And she didn't put the oil cap back on all the way. So as we were driving to Chicago, and maybe like while we were in Chicago, we hit a bumper or something. I don't know. Again, this horrific like shock thing, all the tremors that happened. The oil cap popped off and the oil spurted everywhere. Like it was all over the engine. So I cut the pop can in half. I stuck it over the place where the oil cap was, and I got it like held into place. And we started trying to drive back home, because that's like all I could do. It's again like 4:00 in the morning. I'm in the middle of like nowhere, trying to get home from Chicago. And what I ended up realizing was that I would be able to drive for about 5 minutes or so before the engine would get hot enough to catch the oil that was on it on fire again. And I would have to stop the car every 5 minutes, let it cool down for about 10 minutes before I could start driving it again. Now, bear in mind, starting out this trip, I was stoned out of my gourd. I am like so exhausted. I came down like hours before this, right? And my friend Tom, the asshole, decides to go into the back seat of the car and just fall asleep. I'm like, dude, I could really use your help right now. Maybe we could take turns and maybe I can nap a little bit. Nope. He was out like a light. No way I could wake him up. So, what was normally a 2-hour or so trip, maybe 3, turned into an 8-hour trip home. It was horrible. It was horrible. Yeah, that was probably one of the worst experiences driving that I could say I had. It was not good. Not good. So what about you guys? What are some of the like horror stories for driving that you guys have? I'd love to know. Yeah, funnily enough, it was actually my dad had taught it to me like a couple of years before when I first started learning how to drive. He showed me that if I ever needed to do anything with the oil cap, I could use a pop can, like cut it down and use that end of it that it would fit most of the time over it. And you could use like a really strong rubber band or something to get it, held into place long enough to get you to a gas station or whatever, so that you could get it, taken care of. But, yeah, I didn't have much of anything at that time. All I had was just like the can and the hope and a long trip home. But I finally made it, and man, I passed out. I think I didn't wake up for a good 12 hours after I got home and passed out. It was bad. It was bad. Thank you, Miso. I appreciate it. And thank you so much for being here, just even for this moment in time. I greatly appreciate it. And if you're not a follower of mine over there on Twitch, make sure you guys hit it. Yeah. Hey, awesome. Thank you. Seriously. Like, I know that you could follow anybody. I know that you could be around anybody. And the fact that you have trusted me with this, I am very, very grateful. I hope that you have a very wonderful night and that you keep safe and have fun out there, no matter what it is that you do. So, well, thank you, Frosty. Awesome. Thank you so much, you guys. Seriously. I'm just me. I'm the strangest person I've ever met. If you guys want to come along for the ride, I'm more than happy to have you guys along. And I'm just grateful that you guys have chosen this moment in time to be with me. So I do think, though, I have been on for a couple of hours here. I am getting a little bit tired. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning here. Yeah, going on about 5 o'clock in the morning here. So I do need to get some passed out done. But I will say, you guys being here, you guys chatting with me, has cheered me up immensely, and I'm gonna go to bed without having that unmood now. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for being here. Yeah, I've been awake for a long time. I usually only end up sleeping 3 to 5 hours a day, but today was even worse. I've had a pretty bad pain day going on, so probably contributes to that unmood, but yeah, absolutely. So thank you everybody for listening. Thank you for being here. I love all of you. I really do. So I hope that you guys have the best day. Go out there, make your dreams happen. All I want to have is for people to be the best that they can be in this moment in time. If you're being the best you that you can be in this moment in time, that's all anybody can expect of you. And that doesn't mean to be the best that you can be, by the way. That just means being the best that you can be as it stands right now. Sometimes that just means being able to get up out of bed, go get a bite to eat, and go back to bed. If that's the best you can do, then that's the best you can do. Just be whatever it is that you need to be. Okay? So in the meantime, keep safe out there. Have fun. Thank you so much as always for being here. And we'll talk to you again later.
Incoming customer detected.
Keep your eyes open, boys.
We need to have a